Welcome to the Funeral Funds Life Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Vandervate from Funeral Funds of America, and you can find us at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, Funds.com. Whether you're interested in term life, whole life, mortgage protection, annuities, disability, business continuation, or final expense life insurance, we have you covered. Our team of experienced professionals will guide you through the complexities of insurance products to help you make an informed decision. In this podcast, I'm going to be discussing 7 common questions about final expense life insurance. Let's go right on down the list here. Number 1, how is final expense insurance different than traditional life insurance? Well, understand one thing. There's only one type of policy that's going to pay out when somebody passes away, and that's a life insurance policy, right? And what that means is life insurance, there's different types of policies depending on what you want it to do or what your needs are or what your budget is, anything like that. But final expense insurance is just a smaller whole life policy that's intended for final expenses. Now, could a smaller term life insurance policy be final expense too? Yes. The one disadvantage of term life insurance, however, is that it's temporary. It only lasts a specific amount of time, and most term life insurance policies are going to end once you get beyond age 80. And when do you need this insurance the most? Yeah, once you get once you get beyond age 80, right? Then it becomes really critical. So by and large, term is not an appropriate product for a long-term need. The other thing too is, term life insurance is a temporary product. It's designed to be temporary. And we all know that, when we pass away, it's going to happen at some point. We just don't know when. So having this type of insurance is a permanent need if we want to protect our loved ones from having to pay for final expenses, which could be burial costs, cremation costs, that could be income replacement, that could be making sure the mortgage gets paid off, or at least making sure the mortgage payments are made until the home can be sold, different things like that. So understand that final expense insurance is for final expenses long term. That's how we look at it. And that's why they're based out off of whole life insurance policies that last all the way up until age 121 years old. Now, a lot of people just they arbitrarily say, well, I want term life insurance because it's cheaper. Well, it's cheaper for a reason, because it's temporary. It's not permanent. And the statistics are like, oh man, only about 2 to 3% of the term life insurance policies pay out because people either outlive them and the plans cancel, and therefore it's all profit to the insurance company, or there's a lot of companies out there that they will increase your rates every 5 years and cancel those policies after you get past age 80. So what ends up happening is a lot of people are short-sighted and they go for the low premium, and they don't look down the road to when those premiums are increasing every 5 years, because now they're 5 years older. Now they're 10 years older, and the rates are going to be as if they were 10 years older, and they get priced out of them, and then they have to cancel the insurance. And then it's been nothing but profit to the insurance company. And in the end, they would have been better off getting some whole life insurance, paying a little bit more on the front end, but then knowing that as time goes out, the costs average out and then eventually tip in favor of the whole life insurance. So just kind of keep that in mind. So number 2 is who's eligible for final expense insurance? Well, everybody's eligible for final expense insurance. So keep in mind, if you had a 1 million or 2 million or $3 million policy, I mean, truly by definition, that's a final expense policy. It's just like you've got to keep in mind that that's a final expense policy, even if you happen to die at the wrong time. Most of us want to outlive our term life insurance. I've outlived, I think, three term life insurance policies in my life. And I was pretty thrilled each time. I wasn't disappointed to outlive that policy, because the alternative was that I died and it would pay out. So, you buy term life insurance kind of for what if questions, and you buy whole life insurance for like when questions, like when am I going to die? So the number 3 point is, how much does final expense life insurance cost? Well, here's a good example. Let's say we were shopping around for a hammer. Well, it'd be pretty easy to shop around for a hammer, especially if it was one specific type of hammer. The internet, super easy to do these days. You could just say, I want this hammer. The difficulty in final expense insurance is we're not like insuring the hammer. We're insuring the person swinging the hammer, right? Driving the nails. So that's a real variable, because that person swinging the hammer could be any number of age, could be age 18 all the way up to 100 plus potentially. And they could be really super fit and running marathons every month, or they could be in a wheelchair breathing off an oxygen tank. They could be super healthy or super not healthy. They could be height weight proportionate, or they could be very not height weight proportionate, right? So the person swinging the hammer is always going to dictate and be the variable on the cost. So the other variable there is the different insurance companies all have different pricing. And that's just based off, their business structure and the amount of risk that they're willing to take, and the number of and type of applicants that they're willing to insure. They're all, well, okay, I take that back. I would say the best ones are all in close to the same category, but there's some ones out there that are like just really expensive, like Colonial Penn, their 995 plan. Number one, it's got a 2-year waiting period. We don't recommend it because of that alone, because we specialize in first day coverage. But also we did, oh man, we did so many videos on our YouTube channel talking about getting specific coverage amounts at specific ages for each gender. I think we've got over 300 videos on that, because we broke it down by age. And what we found is, like, Colonial Penn, on average, they were right around 200% more expensive than our best companies offering first day coverage. So why would you ever go with a company that's going to charge you double what they should, and and then put you through a 2-year waiting period? I mean, oh my gosh. Nobody would ever buy a car if they couldn't drive it for the first 2 years. Nobody would ever buy a house if they couldn't live in it for the first 2 years. Heck, a lot of people wouldn't date if they couldn't get even a kiss in the first 2 years, right? So why would you ever get an insurance policy that's going to cost you more and make you wait 2 years? So, yeah, as you can tell, that's a pet peeve. So, point number 4, what's the process for obtaining final expense life insurance? Well, in most cases, you can't just call an insurance company and say, "Hey, I want to buy it. This is what I want. Tell me how much it is." We get grumpy people like that one. So just tell me the price. And again, we're not insuring the hammer. We're insuring the person, swinging the hammer. We're not trying to get the cost of the hammer. We're trying to get the cost to insure the person who's swinging the hammer. So the process is, there's 2 types of agents out there. There's called a captive agent, and there is not captive. So captive, kind of think about the zoo, right? The tigers and the elephants, they're captive. They can't get out there and roam, right? They're stuck in the zoo, and they can only do what zoo animals do. And nobody lets them out in the wild or in the city or anything like that. A captive agent can only work for one company, and they can only sell their products, and therefore their options are limited. And by and large, their options are more expensive. And in many cases, it's going to be 30, 40, 50, 60, even like Colonial Penn, up to 200% more expensive. You're going to end up paying double. So at Funeral Funds of America, we work with a bunch of different insurance companies so that we can shop them all for you. Our goal is to get people first day coverage. We never, 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 never recommend 2-year waiting periods. So for us to do that, we ask some preliminary underwriting questions to find out what you even qualify for. And then once we have some basic health and personal info, then we actually shop rates and find out which company is going to be the best based off your unique situation, your unique budget, and how much coverage you need. And that's the real advantage because there's a lot of agents out there who severely lack underwriting experience, and you are just part of their learning process. And they will just kind of guess at things, and they will like put you with companies hoping that you get approved, and then you get on the phone with them, with the insurance company and your agent, and then they deny you because the agent is not well skilled at their job yet, because they're probably just starting, or they work with very few insurance companies, and they're just trying to squeak you through with a company that's not going to approve you. And then they will offer a secondary product that's much more expensive, hoping you'll just take it because you've gone all the way through the process that you shouldn't have been taken through in the first place because you didn't qualify it. And that's why you're getting pitched a modified product now, which you don't want. A modified product. You absolutely don't. So yeah, just be careful of that. We are licensed in all 50 states. We can help you with just about any health or medical thing you got going on. Point number 5. What's the maximum benefit amount for final expense life insurance? It depends on the insurance company. So, this depends on the hammer, right? The insurance company is kind of part of the cost of the hammer, right? So, yeah, some companies are going to max out at 20,000 in whole life insurance. Some companies are going to max out at 25,000. Some are going to max out at 30 and 40,000, depending on your age, what state you live in, and your health and all that other stuff. Now, that's if we're just looking at whole life insurance. Now, if we're looking at term life insurance, which I mentioned can be a final expense policy, but it's a temporary policy. That just depends on, any number of things. We can help people up to 5-10 million if they qualify for it. All of this insurance has to be qualified for it. If you're making $50,000 a year, you're not going to qualify for $5 million worth of insurance. I can tell you that right now. But 250,000 might be appropriate. So just keep that in mind. So that's kind of for final expense insurance. Most people are wanting to cover either burial or cremation. The average cost of a cremation right now in the United States is between $1,000 to $2,000. And that's if you come home in a cardboard box or an urn. If you're going to have some sort of ceremony or policy, probably a $3,000 to $5,000 range, depending on where you live. So we would typically be helping somebody with a cremation policy. We'd typically be looking 5,000 to 10,000. Get some extra coverage in there. Just make sure that we allow for inflation in the future, so that you don't have to come back and do this again in the future when you're older and the insurance is more expensive. If you're looking at a burial, the average cost of a burial right now in the United States is right around $10,000. But that, we know as you get older and the insurance is going to get more expensive if you don't lock in your rates right now, and that inflation starts kicking in as well too, and the prices do tend to go up over time due to inflation. So most of the time we're helping people with between, say 10,000 to 15,000 to 20,000, sometimes up to 25,000. Just depends on your needs and most importantly your budget. We are just, you know, we're always so aware that the people we help are on fixed or limited incomes. Even if everybody's on a fixed or limited income. Even somebody making $200,000 a year. I can't tell you how many times we help people that are making $200,000 a year, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, just like the people making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, paycheck to paycheck. Right? It's kind of like the more you make, the more you spend. So, um, you know, maximum benefit. It just depends what your wants and needs are, and then we fit that in with your budget. Question number 6 about final expense life insurance. Are there any health requirements for final expense life insurance? Yes and no. All right. So just be aware the plans that we recommend, with us being a broker, are plans that ask health questions. Why? Because you get first day coverage and you get lower rates. And with as many different insurance companies that we work for, that all have their unique niches and that all have different underwriting questions, we've got a terrific track record of getting people first day coverage. What's the alternative? The alternative is getting stuck with one of those plans with 2-year waiting periods. And we just don't recommend those. Pretty much if you see it advertised on TV or showing up as junk mail in your mailbox, those by and large are 2-year waiting period plans. And why are those even sold? Because you don't have to understand underwriting and health requirements. And they're super easy to sell from an underwriting standpoint, they are much harder to sell from a pricing standpoint because they are so much more expensive. Again, those $9.95 plans like Colonial Penn, that's Colonial. You've probably seen that commercial. Colonial Penn, only $9.95 per unit. Oh, per unit, not per policy, right? So they're going to sell you units. And as you get older, there's going to be age bands where one unit is only paying out hundreds of dollars, a couple hundred, whatever it would be, multiple hundreds of dollars. And now you've got to start adding units up, 995 plus 995. You can be 150, 160 bucks really, really quickly and still not end up with the amount of insurance you need. And you're going to get stuck with the 2-year waiting period. Oh, awful. Yeah, we don't recommend that at all. Just understand that, there's some insurance companies out there that it's not great insurance, but they've got great marketing companies that make this stuff seem really, really great. And then that is until you read the fine print. And that fine print on the TVs is always really small and really blurry. And it's up there for a good, a quarter of a second. So you should be able to read that, right? Nope. Yeah, just be very aware of that. If you've got any questions about any of those, just certainly shoot us a call. We can get you up to speed on pretty much everything out there in the marketplace. We're pretty terrific at staying informed on what all the different insurance companies are doing out there. And then our last point number 7: how are claims handled for final expense insurance policies? So what ends up happening when you pass away? Your loved ones are going to have to submit a claim to the insurance company. That should be obvious. The insurance company is not going to know somebody died until somebody tells them somebody died, and they'll need a death certificate. That is proof because they just want to make sure that if they're going to pay out a lot of money, that the person's actually dead. And they a lot of people think, hey, the insurance companies don't want to pay this out and they're going to find any reason to deny me. That is actually not the truth. The truth is, really the best marketing and the best PR for these insurance companies is when somebody does get paid, and it's kind of like, the day is saved, at least financially. You're always going to have that emotional loss, but it doesn't mean everybody has to suffer a financial loss. So they actually love paying out this money because it's the best advertising for them. And just hearing people telling good stories about how the insurance company came through and paid that, and that just helps them do more business. And good insurance companies should be rewarded for doing good business. So claims are handled that way. I know us in particular, when you get a policy from us, what we do is we've got a welcome package that we send to people, and we've got essentially kind of what amounts to an owner's manual for your policy. And everything in your policy is going to have everything written down because it's a legal contract, and it doesn't matter what your agent told you. The only thing that's going to happen is what's written down in the contract. And that's why we always tell people, make sure that when you get the policy home, when it's delivered to you, actually read it. Don't just throw it in the file cabinet and trust what your agent said, because, there's good cops out there and there's bad cops, and there's good judges and bad judges, and there's good doctors and bad doctors, right? Well, there's good agents and bad agents. And sometimes an agent will sell something or say something, and it may not be true, or they just may not be entirely forthright with you and might not mention everything, or the more objectionable parts of some insurance policies, like that it has a 2-year waiting period or something like that, or it's a graded plan where it kicks in over time. But yeah, just make sure you actually read your policy. And that's why we send that welcome package out. And what we do is we actually put everything in writing that we actually talked about over the phone. And then we mail that to you. And we tell you, when you get the policy, we want you to open up the policy and compare everything that we told you on the phone, then compare everything that we actually put in writing for you and mailed to you, and then compare that to your policy. And then when you're done, put those documents that we sent you in with your life insurance policy, your final expense insurance policy, and that way it's our information, and all the details are always going to be handy for your loved ones when that day comes. But yeah, final expense life insurance is pretty terrific because it is designed by design. By design, it's intended to pay out within 24 to 48 hours of a claim approval. So keep in mind that's a claim approval. You've got to get the death certificate and do some other administrative thing. And the quicker you get on that, the quicker everybody gets paid. So there you go. 7 common questions about final expense life insurance. My name is Randy Vandervate, and I hope this podcast has been helpful to you. Funeral Funds of America can help you qualify for first day coverage or benefits at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, FUNDS.com. And our phone number is 888-862-9456. We will be blessed to help you with this in the future. Until that day comes, stay safe, take care, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.